Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review, your source of common sense commentary on salient current events. I generally take the view that large, medium, and small businesses can be good for our society. Each can fit a certain need. For certain needs, you prefer a larger and scalable provider to meet your expectations. Sometimes a small or medium-sized organization may be a better fit. The situation may dictate the requirement. I run a small business and do work with large-scale organizations outside of that. So I see both sides and do not fall into the hysteria-driven mindset that you must be completely for one type or another. But this episode I am going to discuss an economic view of small business, some of the challenges commonly faced, and some opportunities I have realized by doing business with some small businesses lately. In this episode, we are also going to discuss some of the recent current events taking place in our society and address some of the narratives that are out there. Let us begin this special episode of the Christopher Peter Review. Places that specialize in providing food away from home are great points of introduction and engagement with small business providers. While there is a national or regional chain for almost every type of cuisine available in the United States, local restaurants typically are preferred over a national chain for many popular food groups. When I travel for leisure or work purposes, I usually try to find local restaurants to patronize rather than simply support the national chains. Typically, once I am actually in the town or city I am visiting. Otherwise, Dunkin' or McDonald's will get my coffee or travel business until I arrive. But I like to help contribute to the local economy when I reach my final destination through buying as many meals as possible from a local restaurant. Even with my recent relocation, I spent a great deal of time in the first couple weeks trying to research new local places that would suffice as my new regulars for common staples like Chinese takeout, pizza, Italian, Indian, and bagels. Luckily, my new area has a lot more options than my last place of residence. While it was nice to find new places, the real interesting aspect was seeing the market from the customer perspective and small business owners' responses. I even took time to go back to look at my prior regulars to make sure the baseline was realistic. Sometimes, you may like a place that is not rated as well as you think or was previously, so I felt it was important for me to level set. We must remember that every business, whether small, medium, or large, has to earn the patronage of their consumers on a daily basis. Quality issues, attitudes by owners and staff, and business practices that appear as deceiving can drive consumers elsewhere. No business, large, medium, or small, is entitled to the patronage of consumers. Businesses bear the responsibility of giving its customers a reason to continue doing business with them. That said, during my research, I realized just how much the environment continued to be impacted by the residual effects of the pandemic and continued issues with supply chains, labor quality and availability, and other issues. I think it is safe to conclude that small business faced greater harm during the pandemic and after because the environments many operate in are irreversibly changed, leading many to fail or lose customer bases that will simply not be in the area with remote or hybrid work. So that was a common thread, with businesses having to find ways to evolve with the shifting environment, cost structures impacted by inflation, and changing consumer preferences and demands. Many seem to address consumer concerns about cost, pointing out the financial impact of the combination of inflation, reduced consumer traffic or less frequent patronage, and staff cost and availability as mentioned earlier. Reflecting back to my prior pandemic environment, many of the small business eateries that I enjoyed with friends are no longer in business, despite these previously being located near many corporate centers and the headquarters of the largest health systems in New York. But prior to my move, the population of in-office workers seemed to increase a bit, but many people seemed to prefer to bring their lunch or were only in the area 1 or 2 days. I think to some degree consumer demand and preference are changing. People who were overly accommodating and sympathetic over the plight of impacted food providers have lost their tolerance regarding wait times and quality issues. While many small businesses I patronized then and now seem to have kept up their quality in product, service, and customer experience, there are some that allow the excuses to justify regression to a norm that is generally not acceptable. Even if customers have unreasonable expectations at times, the business has the responsibility to manage expectations, communicate properly, and commit to improvements where possible. For small business, there are many things that they have working against them, but they have full control over what they allow to be on their shelves and, most importantly, how they treat and speak to their customers. That is what is in their control before the pandemic and since it. For instance, I recently read reviews of a bagel shop that I thought about patronizing. The ratings were overall good, but I noticed the 5-star reviews did not have comments, but the 1-star ones were paragraphs and pictures. So I immediately had doubts about some of the legitimacy of many of the positive reviews. Now, the overall sense from reading just the customers' responses did not make me completely turn away from becoming a customer. More so, the responses from the business owners made it a business that I could not support. Most business owners or any leaders understand the need to be above the fray. Failing to do so makes an undeniable statement about your brand and quality. For example, there were many customers who legitimately complained about the business practice regarding orders that came under the limit for the use of credit card purchases. Rather than asking the customer to purchase up to the limit or obtaining consent, the business simply charged more than what was ordered. Obviously, this deceitful practice would rub customers the wrong way. Furthermore, there were pictures of bagels and sandwiches by unhappy customers that seemed to reflect legitimate concerns over quality and sales of potentially spoiled food. In response to the concerns over the credit transactions and quality concerns, the business owner strongly responded that the commentators were unfairly attacking his business and made personal attacks. Additionally, he deflected blame for quality on products being outsourced. But the manufacturer or distributor would not have final say on what actually makes the shelf, or the business owner sells it back to them. I am sure that the business owner does not intend to put out bad products, and is passionate to the point that the negative comments strike a chord with him personally. But again, it is important to be able to remain above the fray and be able to turn negatives into potential positive experiences by showing that your business has effective customer service to attempt to rectify the situation. Even if you cannot, the appearance of being willing to try to make things right goes a long way. People are generally willing to pay more for good quality and good customer service. In fact, some places may still benefit from good customer service even if their products or services are just okay, or average at best. As I will discuss in the next segment, the best tool a small business has is its customer service and customer engagement. The payer should always get what they pay for and more. If you want to thrive, then your customers need to see your business as one that they want to be associated with and tell everyone about. Recommend it to people seeking that product or service. The time-honored saying is that a happy customer tells 5 people and an unhappy customer tells 100. In the invention of social media and places to rate businesses, satisfied customers are usually willing to go to great lengths to paint their favorite spots in a good light. Make sure you give them reason to, even if it means swallowing your pride. Our society generally starts inward and works outward. What do I mean by that? We tend to want something familiar, and then venture out to new experiences that expand our limits of what we think is possible. Something familiar? The average person would prefer to purchase a pizza or any Italian meal from a local small business establishment than a national chain like Pizza Hut, Domino's, or Papa John's. In many situations, a pizza from Pizza Hut or Domino's will serve your needs, but it is not what you prefer. People tend to want to do business with people that they have something in common with. Interact with people and organizations so that they can develop a relationship and trust over time. Not many people want to be a one-time transaction. And many times, you want to be able to proudly tell others that you do business with certain companies. The faceless chains, as some people see them, lack this connection. A national chain like Domino's and Pizza Hut have rigid protocols to make sure that each location has standardized products. The idea is that each customer, regardless of location, has the same or similar experience, helping to maintain a consistent brand image. But it is transactional and there is no real long-term connection. Chances are the people working there will be different each time you patronize the place. But think about how your local pizza makes your pizza and the environment. The pizza shop that you regularly patronize and remembers your style of order. The experience feels very different and personalized to you. It feels like your community and is very familiar to you. If you had a slice while sitting anywhere in the world, you would know it is from your local pizza place. And most likely, each visit will lead you to meet the same individuals in consistency in service, quality, and engagement. While yes, in a way, the national chain will be familiar because of product standardization, when in doubt, it can be a fallback, but it is not special. Everyone gets that same experience that is not unique. The pizza shop in your hometown or current place of residence is something you remember, and in many ways is ingrained in you as a person. People generally want to support their community. Each dollar that stays in your community helps improve the viability of the area, as it is more retained wealth that will stay in that economic ecosystem. The longer it stays, the greater the benefit. Sure, at some point, it will leave the ecosystem, but the goal is to retain the benefit as long as possible. Again, I take the all-of-the-above approach to business because I do think a mix of large, medium, and small is needed, or at the very least helpful. All are helpful to generate tax revenue, economic activity, and jobs. I do believe that small businesses help make medium and large businesses want to come to a particular location, especially ones that are complementary to their needs or potential partners to fuel collective growth. Ideally, communities can help make small businesses into medium businesses, turn medium businesses into large businesses. All the while, the community benefits and grows as jobs are created. Education systems, public safety, healthcare, and overall infrastructure all grow to serve the new needs of the expanding population that is more financially stable than before. Consider how public services are funded. Communities generally want good schools, safe areas, paved roads, jobs, and growth. The low-hanging fruit for economic fund management is obviously tax revenues. Personal tax codes and property tax revenue is enough of a burden that a community cannot continue to go to the same well over and over again. If the people paying the taxes are not seeing their own economic conditions increase, then how can you expect them to fuel increases to the tax coffers? That is where the business community steps in with the economic activity needed to generate tax revenues that can be used to fund all the community projects and improvements that simply cannot be paid for by the personal tax code. Also, the small, medium, and large businesses can all bring in new revenue from external customers that expand the wealth of a local community. Communities with thriving business communities are usually the better places to live. Again, their public services actually function consistently. Unless the community is right outside of a large metropolitan area, there are not many jobs that can sustain that required tax level without a business community that can create the wealth needed to generate taxable economic activity. I would also argue that small businesses are a better deal for many communities than some larger organizations. Later, Jennifer is going to discuss the difference in perks thrown at larger businesses and organizations that are not offered to small businesses. Large corporations employ a lot of people and create wealth for communities like no other, but they also can be troublesome when they decide to move to another community. Having a thriving business environment that encourages small business can help blunt the impact or dependency, if not completely tied to the departing organization. Bigger animals eat smaller animals. That is the saying when it comes to the natural order of things. But effective small businesses can compete with larger competitors, or become the future market leader if it can strategically position itself and disrupt its industry. Not every lion gets its meal. Well-run businesses understand what they do, where they are lacking, and real opportunities to grow and enhance their performance. Effective business leaders focus a great deal on knowing where their business is now and where it needs to be at different points in the future, setting benchmarks and decision points at varying intervals. Entrepreneurs are also aware of obstacles that need to be addressed as the business navigates its path along the way, knowing where their organizations stand against competitors and what threats and opportunities exist. As I am going to discuss in my next episode, the blind spot to potential actions by your competitors can be fatal to an organization's viability. So if you are running a small business, what are some challenges you may face, or some disadvantages that exist for you in the marketplace? The main area of disadvantage a small business has against a larger organization is scale. A larger business enjoys economies of scale or the ability to reach it before a smaller one can. The more customers an organization serves, the greater ability to spread fixed costs like plants, indirect salaries, and other expenses not tied to the sale of a good or service, or ones that do not significantly change for a certain level of changes in sales. The reason why this matters to a small business is because a competitor able to achieve economies of scale sooner or at a greater level allows it to price compete and protect its profit margins in the face of greater competition. For most businesses, the knee-jerk response to competition is to try to adjust price to appear more appealing. The issue for a small business is the inability to price compete without risking losing profitability. While a larger competitor may reduce profitability with price competition, the smaller business may not be able to compete for the same length. This could be an obstacle for a small business, depending on the situation and industry. Now, of course, this is a generality. Every business has differing cost structures. Some small businesses may have better margins than larger competition. Some larger businesses are burdened with infrastructure costs or overhead. But if you are a small business, the potential strategic responses by competitors is something you have to project. So if you do not have economies of scale, should you pack up shop and run with your tail between your legs? No. The situation means that you will have to find a different point of competition. Competing on price is futile at the point where your competitors have an advantage. And you could potentially undercut your own growth opportunities if the market can handle an additional participant without needing to lower overall pricing. For a small business, it may make more sense to compete on non-financial attributes that can help the organization increase prices in the future. But you may have other points of competitive advantage over them. Price is an important attribute for selecting a business to be a supplier or retailer for an individual transaction, but it can be overcome. People generally are willing to pay more for better quality and better service from the business. So if you cannot be the most affordable option, you can be the most reliable or more memorable one. You cannot assume that others are too large to be nimble, or that they have resources to limit your existence. If you decide to compete with Amazon directly, then yes, you have to understand they have the resources and ability to make your ability to compete limited and difficult. It helps to know what you're dealing with or what you could be dealing with. You may be at a disadvantage at this point, but do you have a better product, service, or method of delivery? If the answer is yes, you may be able to leverage potential growth to access funds to help offset the financial competitive advantage others have. Investors tend to obsess over handing over precious funds to entities they think will disrupt an industry. Feats that need to feel like you can predict the future, or make you feel like you outsmarted the competition. For instance, there was a time where many tech companies were rushing to launch smart eyewear. Not so much a thing now, but there was a market for it at a time. Many tech companies had some form of the product line in their pipeline. But many companies, including Google, terminated their projects when a small startup came into the space with a product that many felt was far ahead of their own projects. Obviously, I do not remember the company's name, and smart eyewear did not take off. But a good innovative competitive product can disrupt an industry to the point where larger competitors with more resources may find it not logical to compete with. But it may make you a target for a hostile takeover. Sometimes the best strategy is simply to acquire the smaller competitor and put it on the shelf and incorporate its products in your own line. Consider how treacherous the artificial intelligence market could be for many startups. If Microsoft builds its own independent product lines, how long will it keep OpenAI around and operating, despite its strong presence in the current market? There are a host of challenges small businesses face. For single locations, leasing, zoning, or space restrictions could be a challenge that impacts your existence. Barriers to entry strategically written by larger market players wanting to reduce threats from new entrants. The most effective leaders of these organizations will be ones that find ways to turn these obstacles into opportunity. Sounds cliché, but it is the truth.
My name is Jennifer, and before we wrap up this episode, let us think about small business from a public policy standpoint. It is nice to talk about small business, but the real benefit is providing solutions to the issues small businesses face. First, I think it is helpful if people understood the importance of pro-growth and pro-business public policies to the viability, well-being, and future of many communities across America. There is a flawed mindset that businesses are bad, which is a misleading social construct championed by those on the left who favor greater government control over the individual. Look at your community and compare it to a community that you consider is in a better situation than yours, and, for fairness, compare it to one that you feel your place of residence is superior to. Many times you will see that the ones that provide better public services, safer communities, better schools, are the ones with better business environments that encourage growth. Many progressive communities may seem like they are attractive to large corporations, but look at the sweetheart tax deals that are in place to keep them from looking to relocate. Paid for by small businesses and local residents. Corporations would not look to relocate if there were fair tax brackets and regulation, as well as thriving business environments that can support their value chains. So fair taxes, and sweetheart deals, and promote business growth and economic activity. The programs that encourage larger organizations to improve their business with small businesses, including ones that are underrepresented, can help expand access for small businesses. But I think more programs that help promote small business based on their quality potential and ability to partner or fit a supply channel is more important. The identity of the owner is often looked at more importantly than the diversity of the overall organization. Small businesses should not face the same regulatory burden that larger competitors do, especially since they may not contribute to the negative externalities to the same degree. Providing some exemptions or accommodations may help balance the competitiveness for industries. There are some, but many are not realistic. There are some public services, like libraries, that are no longer serving a public need to the same degree because of technology changes, but can be retooled to some degree to help business owners. Why not dedicate some space for small business owners to rent space for meetings? Or provide classes and services to help local businesses close the skill gaps that may exist. Instead of becoming solely rest areas for the homeless, many libraries can improve their usefulness. Some are already doing this. This will be an ongoing conversation, but we need to start shifting our dogma around business to promote growth and entrepreneurship. Sure, there are some bad actors in the market, but that is also the case in government, academia, and altruistic organizations. The key is to hold bad actors accountable and move forward in a better manner. Let us stop grooming our youth to simply strive to become another cog in the corporate, public, or academic wheel. Consider starting their own small business or become an independent contractor. America needs more problem solvers, innovators, and market disruptors. Nothing wrong with trying to do something different than the status quo. Until next time.
A big thank you to all of you in the audience. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. If you are running a small business or thinking of starting one, please remember to put your customers' interest and experience at the forefront, especially at the start. The businesses that understand scale and loyalty would lead to greater future profitability than simply trying to earn a slim profit in the present are the ones that have staying power. Thank you, Jennifer, for your perspective. I would add that maybe small businesses could be further assisted by reducing intellectual property restrictions for technology not being actively used. If a company can create a solution even if leveraging a technology not currently in a marketed product or service, why stop them? My intent would be to stop allowing the bigger competitors from shelving competitive products or services. If they are not actively using the acquired technology, then maybe release the protections. Small businesses are important. Entrepreneurship is important. Every large corporation was once a small business, remember that. Please further the Christopher Peter Review on social media, and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.